welcome to the Open Mic Comedy Podcast. I'm your host, Marc. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. This podcast is here for everybody on the open mic comedy circuit, whether you're a comedian, an MC, a promoter, or a tutor, and even comedy fans who enjoy watching stars of the future in those pub basements around the world. If you're thinking I could do that, then this podcast will guide you on what to expect on this crazy circuit from those right in the middle of it. Today's guest is someone who doesn't really shy away from opinions on social media. If you ever look at her Instagram, it's real by name, real by nature. And if you've seen her up the creek performance, she has the moves and the charisma working with the crowd. She's put on a one-woman show, and we're going to get into that a little bit later on. So please welcome to the stage for the moment. It's Miss Mo Real.
Hi everybody. Hi,
hello.
Marc. Hi listeners.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. I'm okay. Everybody that I interview on these things, I don't know everybody. And you're one of those that falls into that category that I've met a couple of times, but I don't know a great deal about your background. So give the listeners a kind of summary on how you got started in comedy and how long and all of that kind of stuff.
I've been doing comedy now for 9 years, but I've met comedians that I knew from the beginning of comedy who say they've only been going for 3 years. And I'm like, how do you do? Well, we were performing at the bit. How do you? And I think that sometimes you stop for a bit. You have a breather. Yeah. You collect yourself. You go back and eliminate all the jokes that don't work. You come back with the ones that do work. And then you press forward. But you say you've just started again. So you're fresh. Yeah. So you don't ever get old. I'm planning to do just that. My background is performing arts. I did go to Sylvia Young. I did performing arts at Hammersmith in West London. And my parents sort of could see the talent in me. But at the same time, because they're African, it's the same as all their ethnic countries. They only respect doctors, engineers, lawyers, people who are going to consistently, even if I decided to be a chef, she would be more proud of me. But the thing with her is she could see that I was artistic. She kept getting me to draw stuff for her. My mum was from a part of a Ghanaian community that was popping back in the 80s. They used to put on big funerals in big halls like Battersea Town Hall and Brixton Town Hall, and dress up in African regalia, and they'd look after all the other Ghanaians that maybe you turn up, you feel a bit displaced. Even if they met each other, if you see another Ghanaian in a supermarket, my mum would stand there and promise you she knows someone who knows someone who knows you. And so therefore, that's the reason why you should join her community. Because even if you have mental health, they will come to the hospital and bring jollof rice. They'll help you celebrate your christening, your anything, your wedding. And being a part of that, she needed someone to draw an emblem for her. She had me do it. It's cute. At the time, I didn't know that adults often get their kids to draw emblems for them. I know that now. So I've always been artistic. And now that I'm a comedian, I'm hearing that I'm also autistic. So it sounds the same, and I think it's the same thing. It's that our brains are wired to think and see things on a different realm and different perspective and stuff. Yeah. After doing performing arts, I was told, because I'm good at acting as well. I was told that if I went into acting, I would be broke for most of my life. And there'll be times where I'm broke and there'll be times where I'm popping. And then the times where I'm broke, I said, loud, that sounds like bipolar movements. I'm not doing that. Yeah. I need to be consistent because I'm planning to have children. And how am I going to bring up the children if I'm sometimes broken? It turns out you'd be that way anyway in life, regardless of doing acting. Because of whether we call it autism, whatever it is, but I take things quite literally. And it put me off going through for auditions because I just felt like I needed consistency in my life. Yeah. And so I went into lots of sales jobs, lots of recruitment, office work. I used to do cleaning with my mum whilst going to secondary school. We cleaned the offices. So to her, it's an upscale when you're actually working there rather than cleaning. And so I guess she wanted to see me in that sort of setting as well. And it's the pressure of trying to fulfill what your parents want to see you doing, as opposed to you feeling like you can advocate for yourself and do what you want to do. Like, I'm a whole athlete. I'm built like I don't even go to the gym. People grudge me. I don't know what to do. Sometimes I pretend that I go to the gym just so that they can be like, yeah, that's why you like that. Instead of going, you bitch, they even do nothing. I struggle to eat. I've got an African parent. They will slap the taste out your mouth. Well, what are you going to eat? You ain't got no taste, no appetite. So you're going to be slim. I think I'm very much, the dog I've got, because I know earlier we had a convo, right? The dog I've got is a Staff Rottweiler, and we're both misunderstood. And I want people to know that we come across one way, but actually we're very friendly. We're very vulnerable sometimes. You know, no one's perfect. We're all works in progress. I'm a very loyal person as well, just like him.
So what made you get to the point of going on stage as a stand-up? So if you've been doing performing arts and stuff like that, what was the draw to stand-up comedy?
Before social media was so prevalent, I was able to get a job as and when I needed to. If I felt mistreated and I couldn't get justice via HR, I would consider my mental health and just leave and move forward. And I've always lived my life that way, rather than trying to get justice and see the punishment. I'm like, you know what? I might not see it. What's best for me? Keep it moving. So I was able to get a job within 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then after the credit crunch, everybody suffered. But what I saw was people take their own lives. I saw people jumping. I carried on looking for work. I saw how harder it got the more people were visual on social media, because I worked in recruitment. So I know that what we have to do is look them up to see if they fit what we're looking for. So I'm already being exposed to it because I'm a part of it. Then I was made redundant. That hurt. And I just started to find it humorous how much I attached myself to my value, to how much money I was earning. So I started to look at the humor, because if I look too deep into the abyss, I'm going to fall into it. So I had to pull back and look at the humorous side of life and detach from monetary gains and look at what my talents could bring me in terms of being happy or being content or achieving goals, which also brings me happiness and contentment, by the way.
Yeah.
And I tried to restructure how my perspective on life was. And it just made me less shallow, which made it hard for me to joke. And then I became the comedian who, I'm a nice girl. I'm kind. I'm a good person. And usually when comedians are a bit mean, innit? And a bit, you know, a bit neggy. I notice a bit of negging goes on. But I wanted to come and lift people up and make them come together and make us look at why we see things in these sort of ways. And to stop myself from going into deep depression, I decided to do comedy. I got a job where I was working with Tanya Moore, and she got me to follow. It's weird because we were at work, we were only the two black girls there. So we had colour purple moments. Me and you must never part. She's a person who, her character, I'm already familiar with that type of character because my mom is similar to that. And so I found that it was easy for me to be friends with her as long as I was helping her or at service. She said to me, I should do comedy as well. She thought I was funny. I was following her to all her comedy shows, like she wanted me to be the +1. Now I do comedy. I understand the +1 movement. Back then I didn't. I thought I was making a friend. So she was like, you're funny, you should do it too. When we worked together, I was in the sales department and we were working in student accommodation. She was the one sort of making sure that the rooms were ready for the next group of students to move in. I was booking all the people to order on a calendar, on a board. I had to make sure all these rooms had students moving in. I was doing sales, I was doing presentations. I was out there talking to people, and Tanya was making sure rooms were ready. You get me? So we were working together. Sometimes we'll miss each other at lunch, whatever, blah. So when she decided to bring me in, I don't think she looked at it from a business point of view as we're similar, you're my competition. So I respected that, touched me that she didn't see me as competition, because usually that's what I go through in the friendships. I'm a competition and I don't want to be. And it makes you minimize yourself and soften yourself down so that you could be more, I don't know, edible, applicable, somethingable to people, right? Yeah. And so when I started doing the comedy, I went to the Camden. I call it the Camden Comedy School, but it's just Camden Comedy School. I don't have the there like that. And I enjoyed the learning process. Mr. C is crazy. He's a beast at teaching comedy. It was tricky for me because I don't like to be late on account of being black. But my job was shifts. My job was shifts. And there's times where I was finishing too late to turn up on time. And I could see that look in Mr. C's face, like, how dare you come to my class late and still think you can come in and be talking? Look at you talking. What time did you come in? Big one. It was one of them ones, yeah. Yeah, I'm a good student. I can be molded. And also I've got a lot of trauma. So when you got that, you got a lot to work with, a lot of awkwardness. The more pain, the more the blessing. That's how I'm seeing it. That all the things I've been going through, this is the moment where I can flip it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I hit the ground running like I usually do in most of my jobs, because growing up, my mum never gave me the chance to learn. It's like I had to just know. And how come you don't just know? She thinks everybody's on very, very interesting upbringing, and I don't think it was as regular. And I would like to know if other people went through that sort of upbringing, because I think I'm different. I don't think we do have common ground. That's the whole point of doing comedy, finding that common ground. But at the same time, I think some people might describe me as a little bit niche as well.
Okay.
Right? But I try to spread love with the comedy and express the trauma, but flip it so that it's funny.
Yeah. So can you remember like the first few times you got on stage and the feelings you got doing it? Did you have, was it nerves, or did the performing part kind of make you go, this is me, I'm done, this is great, I love this, or what?
I've been doing performing arts, and I used to dance at African funerals. So this feeling of exhilaration, it's like all your blood is pumping. What is it called?
Adrenaline.
This is the reason why people go bungee jumping and everything, for their blood to just go surging through their body. I associate that same feeling with when my mum calls me and I'm about to be beaten. It's like the same adrenaline goes through my body. I had this thing about facing your fears, like allow the adrenaline to run through your body and channel it into performing entertainment energy to liven up a room. And also, if I wasn't in the family breaking the tension with my sense of humor, my mum would have beaten everybody. I'm the one that helped the people to stay alive. And I use that energy as well. I'm like, I'm here to help people stay alive with my comedy, to save them, not from my mum, but from themselves, from whatever energy that makes people feel bad about themselves. You know, I love it. Even when there was COVID, right, and everybody was online doing comedy, there was that low-key adrenaline because you're about to go online, but there was none of that. The audience, you could feel the energy, you could read the room, you could see the couples, or maybe you're not seeing no couples, whatever it is that allows you to know what your set is going to really capsulate or theme about.
Yeah. So how many gigs have you done then?
I stopped counting. It's like when you're braiding someone's hair and you start counting the braids, and after a while you just get tired of just braid it, finish it, and that's where I got to. Initially, Fair I was enough. Like, I've done this many. Then after a while, I was like, no, I can't keep counting it.
So can you remember, well, I'm sure you can, what are your best and worst moments ever on the stage? I've
been blessed, like I said, with all the trauma. I'm not saying that I haven't had any worst moments, but this was a conversation I've always wanted to have with a bunch of comedians, just listen to all their worst moments, because that's hilarious. It's funnier than your best moments.
Oh,
and I thought, what could I contribute to that? And there was a time I was booked on this really big show at it was either in the Euston Theatre or Hackney Empire, one of those two theatres, right?
Okay, quite big.
These two Jamaican comedians, I think they're called Itchy and Fancy or Itchy and Scratchy. No, Itchy and Scratchy is from a cartoon. Yeah. They're called Itchy and Fancy or something like that. And so I was booked to come on, warm up the stage. Who am I? I just started. I just wanted the stage time. I was even blessed to even be there. So you can see the excitement that I'm coming with. And I was told backstage, you better make sure you're funny. Somebody else went on and they weren't funny. And the audience was booing them. And the host was going, come on, guys. He's somebody's child. Come on, guys. And so it was like pressure. So I came on. I was doing my set. I was going great. I was doing all right. And then I heard someone shout, where's Itchy and Fancy? And I just decided to myself, these people just can't wait to see their person who they paid their ticket for. And that's okay. It's okay. When they did that, I felt this element of insecurity come over me. And I wrapped up my set and I was gone. Knowing when to leave is so important. Not trying to impress the audience. When you know what they really want, it's not you.
Yeah.
Get off the stage and give them what they want, innit? I had an embarrassing moment at Up the Creek, but it's the reason why I go there. My first time going there, I was running a show. I was already running my own comedy club at Bar 45. This was my earlier times where I thought, Muriel, you need practice. They say you're good, but are you? How do you know they're not mocking you? How do you polish it up? And also to learn to host and to learn to put on a night and all that goes with it, so you can respect everybody in all their positions that they do. So up the creek, I managed to get that for the first time whilst running my show. I had no one to leave my show to, so I just left it to one of the comedians. I even know if they were, it didn't matter to me. I was getting up the creek. I went there. The light was right in my eye. I realised when the light goes right in my eye, there's no brain cells there. It's empty. It's empty shadow. There's no one there. And when that happened to me, my brain was in all other places but in the room. I remember saying something about Harumbi. You know, there was an ape, a gorilla called Harumbi, and he tried to grab up the kids that fell into some sort of ditch. I know, nobody else knew what I was talking about. How about that?
I've got an idea. I vaguely remember something, yeah.
It was when you're not present with the room, what should happen is it should feel dead and you should feel that. And when I felt that, I said, I need to come back here. I don't flop. I learn, I achieve, I move on.
That's actually really quite apt, actually. You don't flop, you learn, and then you come back and move on. I think there's so many people out there, I think, that when it goes badly in one particular place, they may not return to that place again because they've judged every night that place puts on based on that one night that went badly. Whereas if you can improve and go back and then achieve something there, you've moved up the level and done more.
For me, that's how it's got to be. Ever since when I started doing comedy, I was gigging at Herne Hill around everybody's favourite comedian, Junior Booker, right? And sometimes the room will be packed. So you're like, oh my God, what time you putting me on? Am I on first? You're scared. But you're going for it. And then sometimes it's just 3 or 4 people. Yeah. Can you believe it's the same adrenaline? It's the same. So it feels to me that once you get out of your ego, you know, when you're trying to train a 4-year-old and you tell that 4-year-old, just because you didn't do it right, it don't mean you're not going to get, it means you have to carry on. And go back to the same place and kill it and then move on to another place if they will have you, you know. Up the creek, the space, the room is always a different audience. Sometimes it's a group of footballers, sometimes they're a bunch of engineers, sometimes it's the NHS, sometimes it's people even, I think sometimes they're from, like, they do marketing and they're PR, It's just such a great room as well. And the staff, I can't go on, and all the places that I've gigged at, they've been amazing to me. Except there's some places that smell like pee. That's all I'm saying. There's some places the whole room smells like the toilet and you've got me there. Me! Anyway, it don't matter. I still gig there.
Yeah.
Up the creek, don't smell of pee though.
With the jokes then, the joke writing, because you kind of sort of touched on it, that some of the topics that you might talk about are a bit more of a sensitive nature. This has always intrigued me, is how do you go about finding the funny in that?
The way I look at it is, first of all, I know my voice sounds a little bit condescending and sarcastic, unfortunately. I'm aware of it. Because when I was doing performing arts, they made me listen back to my voice. And I wasn't looking. I said, who's that? It was me. And I said, she just sounds so sarcastic, condescending. And they were like, Mira, that's your voice. I was like, is that how I sound all the time? So I'm very misunderstood. I always sound like I'm being shady or saying something a bit like mean or underhanded. Also, my parents speak another language. I just interpret what they say directly into English. So sometimes it doesn't sound right. It does sound shady. Like, I went to someone's gig and I met a guy who looks like one of the members of NSYNC. And when I saw him, I said, you look like somebody. You look like someone from NSYNC. And he's nice. And the girl went, so what do you mean? That the guy from NSYNC is nice and he ain't? And I had to unfold and I was like, I don't like explaining myself too much. So I'm learning now that let it, however people want to take it, let it be. Because if you get to know me, you'll see my intention. You'll see I'm very quirky, but so misunderstood.
So when it comes to actually writing material and writing jokes, what's the process that you go through?
Like I said, I started with the sound of my voice. I looked at how I say stuff. How does it come across when I'm writing a joke? I write jokes and post them online. When it's written, how one reads it It's just got to be funny, so that no matter how anybody reads it, they can catch that joke. But when you're saying it in front of people, it's how you're saying it. My mum used to say, it's the way you tell them. And she's not even from Scotland, but she still used to say that. She'd say, it's the way you tell them, in a Scottish accent. She could just about speak English, but she could do this Scottish accent. Anyway, it's how you're telling your joke. It's the build up towards your joke and then misleading.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've been around, there's all different types of comedy, by the way, and I respect all the different genres. Some people have one-liners. They say, bat, 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 boom, bat, 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 boom. So you're like, sometimes you don't get it. You got to wait for a bit for it to, you repeat it, and you're later on your way home, you're going, and then now you get it. Cool. But some people have a whole thing that they want to convey, but how do you convey it and make it funny? The only way you can convey it if you're controversial is it's got to be funny to the people that you're even offending. If it's not funny to them, don't say it, because now you're in the territory of you've made a rude comment. It's got to be funny. If I make a comment about men, black people, white people, the race stuff, homosexuality, if I don't make the men laugh when I say it, I'm not going to say it. It's got to hit funny with them, even though it's about them. So on some level, it's got to be true and funny. Yeah. And that's what I look for. I look for the true and funny, because they're usually, I like wisdom. I like people with theories and stuff. If you're trying to say stuff that's controversial, observational, which is me, if it's not true and funny, then it feels like you've made some shit up. Now you got to make that shit funny. Otherwise, we're just looking at you like, can't identify with what you're saying. Yeah. So we got to be with you. Like, what you're saying is true. For example, let's just say something minor, like men and women, because there's already this advert. I don't know what film's coming out where men and women are starting to let go of each other, but we need each other. Otherwise, who's going to be born? How are we going to have the people? Anyway, say if I'm saying men are more honest with each other, and I like the way men are. I think women need to try to be a bit more like them, because the men have desensitized each other. So my joke is, the man them can ask each other, fam, am I ugly? Girls can't do that, because even when they do, the girl's going to lie. Then boys is going to tell them, you, look at you. I can't even look at you sometimes, fam. I do football. I go to the pub. You're the ugliest. They'll finish you. They'll find stuff about you. Do you know what? I'm calling you nose now, fam. I'm calling you belly now. I'm calling you forehead. They will give you a nickname because you've gone and done that. They know that they need to pull you out of this headspace where you think people care about how you look. They'll be trying to teach you, fam, you just got to get your money up, get your car, get your this, that. All the girls love that. They want security. That's what they want. Women, on the other hand, what I've just said, it won't happen like that for women. Yeah. Women will try to be overtly diplomatic and sweet, and we don't desensitize. That man will cry in the car and get over it and then come back with his man friends. The women will stop speaking to you if that's how you're going to treat them, because it's too harsh. And I'm just saying that we need to toughen up, because the world is so hard. And that's why we fall into a level of feeling sort of displaced. A lot of women disappear when they turn 50. Boom, you turn 50, no one can't see you. Where'd you go? What happened? Now you've got to dress outrageous for people to see that you're there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying. When you're creating material and stuff like this, do you run it past people before you ever do it on stage? Or are you one of these that writes in private and then just goes on stage, let's see what happens?
I write it, I record it on my Snapchat, depending on what type of joke and if it's relevant to something that's happening in society. Yeah. And then I might post it, see what kind of response I get.
Okay.
And then I might do it at a gig where I don't get paid. Say like a pub gig where it smells of pee. See what the room says. And then I might work on it and keep it, and then do it at a bigger gig if it bangs in all these different spaces, depends on the reaction. But if I go to these gigs where I don't get paid, I do all the jokes that come to me. Sometimes you're in the room and the people in the room are making you say that stuff, because you're going with the energy as well that's in the room, or you're bringing the energy to the room. Yeah.
It's an interesting way to kind of work out if jokes have a future using social media, by putting them out there and almost raw and saying, you're almost just inviting that criticism to come back to say,
you're inviting people to steal your jokes. That's what you're doing. That's what I've learned. That's all there is to it. Someone's going to go, rah, she ain't nowhere. She ain't performing. I'm going to do that over here. And I'll never see it. So by the time I'm doing it, I now look like I'm the one taking, if they're high up. I try to put my jokes that I already feel like the premise is already sort of out there.
Yeah.
And then the jokes that are personal to me are jokes that are about my personal life. Mm-hmm. So if I'm telling you a story about something that happened to me, usually it did, but I'm trying to make it comical, because even I think it's so stupid, it's so crazy, or it's so awkward, or I was so ashamed, or whatever it was. But you're telling your personal jokes. You don't expect people to take that. I'm not saying that people won't have the same experience as you, but it's how you tell them. Again, it's how you tell the joke.
Yeah, you make them as personal to yourself as possible. Yeah. And whenever, if anybody was to hear it again, but from somebody else, if they've heard it before, but it's in your voice, because it's your voice that said it and it's your voice that's conveyed that effect of the joke and the laughter and made somebody enjoy it, then it's yours in effect, isn't it? You've put your stamp on it.
When I know that everybody who grew up in the 80s would know about running to the ice cream van.
Yep.
And especially after school, they knew exactly when to start to make the noise. When you are from a certain ethnic background, your parent will say, "Nah, man, we got ice cream in the freezer. What are you doing? What are you running to? Sit down, man. Go read a book." When I talk about stuff like that, or the biscuit tin not having no biscuits in it, I know that there's some of us that's what we went through. That it's even a generational thing. So when I see little young people that are just in their 20s, what do you know about that? What do you know about getting on the bus and going ding, ding? You don't know that. All you know is doing this. You see, we used to have that man crank up the machine to give you a ticket, and you and your brother and sisters would be fighting over that one piece of ticket. These kids don't know about that. And so that's where I try to put my stamp on my age, my generation. This is what we know. And I can tell if people are stealing, because you're too young to be telling that joke. You just born the other day. How come? Yeah. And it's just because some people want to fit into certain groups and amalgamate and assimilate. But I can see through that sometimes. We all can.
Yeah, I love topics from the 80s and stuff like that. And it brings back those memories from when you were younger. And, hopefully they're all happy. Most of them are happy memories. But it's those little things that happened that the ice cream one is such a typical. I mean, it's like, oh, you hear the noise. Then it comes down the street. And you're like, can we get one? And it's like, no, you've got chalk ices in the freezer.
Yeah.
You can have one of them if you want.
This as well is the reason why my brother is not attracted to black people. Our neighbours were white people. And because of them, I got to play with Barbie. I got to go to a place called Waterworld. You think my parents would have taken me there so I can drown? We would all drown. Who knows how to swim? Even I don't know how to swim. My mum's saying, and when you drown, don't say nothing to me. She said, when you drown and you come home, I'm going to beat you. After I drown, you're still going to beat me. Because of Carla, I got to learn to roller skate. I did get the ice cream because I was out with her. Her family will be, I get one for Muriel, and you're like, oh my God, you're eating ice cream. It's got some chewing gum at the bottom. Oh my days, the thing is just more goodness. The goodness never stops. Now you're eating chewing gum after eating your ice cream.
Yeah.
That my parents were not a part of that. Even school trips, I got to go to Isle of Wight, and it's because I begged and pleaded. I was like, don't you want me to experience life? She's like, and when you go there, they'll take you away. You'll never come back. My mum used to work for the Metropolitan Police. She used to hear all these horrible stories. It's only now as an adult I'm really understanding her mindset. She had undiagnosed mental health, and she used to work for people thought it was her personality, so it's okay. And she worked for the Metropolitan Police, and she reckoned that when you hear the sirens, it's because they're coming for her food, because she worked in the canteen. But I reckon they were because of her food. That's why the sirens. Anyway, so she'd hear a lot of stories. All this trafficking stuff we're all being exposed to now. She was hearing children going missing. That's her everyday, her regular experience. So to her, the world is not really as safe as you think it is. Yeah. Whereas I've got rosy-coloured spectacles on most of the time.
I guess when you do grow up and you start looking back at what your parents did and why they did it, and then you start understanding where some of the fear stuff coming, because as a kid you never understood. Why can't I go on a school trip? And it's like, well, the real reason is because we can't afford it, but they don't want to say that to you.
Yeah.
And then you feel like that that poor kid at school, and you feel like you're not going to get you'll have the Mickey taken out of you and stuff like that. And it's
these people, I don't think as well. I think they act poor because of the being Africanness of it. Honestly, choose Fendi and Gucci perfume and fancy handbags and going to Ghana on British Airways, Ghana Airways. I think it's about priorities, and sometimes when you're that busy making a name and a status for yourself, other people see you a certain way. I think being a mum was not as natural to her. She's not a maternal lady. She's very pretty. She's very good looking, but she's not maternal. So rearing children is like you could feel like you're a burden if you don't make yourself useful. Right? So that's why I became the funny girl, the helpful girl, the one that helps you sort things out. You know, even if you had to organize, you know, I'm happy, I'm with Glee, because that way I can maneuver around her mental health and all the other stuff. So to me, all these things help you to become a comedian, depending on what perspective of life. Not that because of my perspective, that's why I think I'm the way I am. Yeah. And I think other people's perspective, because I listen to loads of different types of comedians. And that's what makes comedy fun. Like listening to people's jokes about their backgrounds, it makes you understand them better.
So you just mentioned like the phrase kind of making a name for yourself, which I guess you kind of did when you put on the recent solo show, Naming Lights and stuff like that. That looked pretty cool.
It was so nice. It was so good. The interesting thing for me was that this year I watched people go to Edinburgh like I've done every year since I've ever done comedy. And when I started comedy, I said, I want to go on tours. I want to go to this country, that country, that country. I want to be doing it all day, every day, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm like that. But then the reality, that's the me idealizing it. But the reality of actually doing it every day, there's burnout, there's your health, there's all of that. It depends on what kind of blood type you've got and all of this other stuff, okay? Traveling takes a lot out of you as well.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, if I can put on a one-woman show in where I live, just where I live. I was like, Muriel, never mind going all the way to Scotland. They don't know you in Scotland. So fly her in, and I don't know what my audience is going to really look like in Scotland. I don't know how diverse it's going to be, right? And I've been trying to, I keep diversifying. My audience has gone from black and white to black, white with Indian to black, white with mixed race. And now I get people that are deaf. So now I want someone, which is so ironic because right? So then I want someone to come and sign the jokes so that those who are hard of hearing can hear some too. And it's not, I get the homosexuals, the gay community, they come through too, and they help me to spice up my life and bring out my alter ego so that I'm more on a performance vibe, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like when you do comedy, you've got to embrace yourself, but not live in your ego, because it's the ego that will make you scared. Your ego will stop you from learning and being self-aware. When your ego stops you from learning, it looks like making excuses. It looks like it's them, not me. It looks like it's easy for me to say this because I'm the girl who blames herself for stuff that I wasn't even there, but I still feel like I was responsible. I yawned this morning. That's the reason why it's raining. So it's easy for me to say, like, mine, I've got to be the opposite. I actually have to try to be like, nah, there's a scale, and everyone's got where they're at. And I think it helps to try to get yourself in the middle somewhere. And it's like a perfect area to learn and to give yourself grace and to keep learning. And it's when you flop, that's where you're going to learn everything. Yeah. That's all I know. Where the places where you flop, that's where you go, now, what went wrong there? I got to a place of not just what went wrong there. In my head, if I have a show where, to me, what goes wrong is if I don't connect with the audience, basically. That's what it's not about the laughs, because you could say some jokes that you've been saying for years and years and years, and they're laughing because they just said, but did you connect? Was you here with the audience, or was you just generically, are you dead behind the eyes and you just come, you say this, and then you bounce, and then you just say, I can't be like that. That's why my material's got to be fresh. Can't wear the same panties, the same outfit all day. Can't even do the same hairstyle. Different stuff is happening every year. 1 minute P. Diddy, next minute Mike Tyson, different things is going on. So how can you Well, even my thing was doing comedy was that I watched some comedians that had been doing the same set for many years, but it was working for them. So why change something that's not broken, right? But what that happens is, as society changes, you might not see, because you can have blindness to anything. People got eyebrow blindness, makeup blindness, hair, so you can have blindness to not realizing that your thing is all got dust and it's dated and everybody's moved forward. I don't want to have to wait and realize that. And I'll start blaming my friends. How come you lot never told me I was being boring and dusty? You know, watch me go on stage and say all that. I'm not codependent on other people. I'd rather each time assess myself like a teacher would. Try it. If you've got a favorite mentor or someone who, when they talk to you, they really resonate with their vibe, I try to encapsulate that person in my head, and then I see what they would say to me. I always try to channel my inner Toju. He's another comedian. He'll be bouncing around. You'll be a look, and he'll be like, and you got to do all that in your head to try and get yourself up. Yeah. Even though you're deep down, you're a bit, but you got to do it because this performance, that no one cares about all that stuff you're going through, especially if you're being paid.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. Duncan Hart here from episode 37. If you're enjoying this podcast, give it a like, a 5-star rating, and a follow on whatever app you're using right now. Marc will be forever grateful. Now, back to this cracking episode.
So with the solo show, what was the process around actually getting it set up? What did you have to do?
The process was I worked with some people who disappointed me and told me to, after they treated me any old how, because I'm from like I said, a traumatized, I went along with it like a Justin Bieber next to P. Diddy. I went along with it. Yeah. And then later on, I was like, hold on, these people taking the piss. And I felt burnt out. And a word hollowed came into my vocabulary out of nowhere, hollowed. And I looked up the word and it wasn't a positive word, but that's what I felt after working with these people. And like I said, I'm a person who I'm constantly redeeming myself. If I feel like that was a slight on my spirit and you're taking something from me, I gotta go and get that. I gotta get myself back. I gotta get myself back to how I was before I met you. Before I met you, I was like this. After I met you, I gotta get back to this. I can't let you take that from me. So that show was like, it's enough now, isn't it? After I redeem myself, I'm like, it's enough. People know I'm funny. I could put on a show on my own. I can make money out of it as well. That was the biggest part for me, the maths part.
Yeah.
A lot of people, a lot of entertainers, some of them are dyslexic, etc. So putting on the show can be tricky. But when you get a room where the maths makes sense, it blesses you. I put on that show to redeem myself from failures of the past, to prove to myself that I can do this. And the blessing that came from it was that when I started comedy 9 years ago, I used to walk past the Ritzy building. I live not far from there. Yeah. And I would visualize it saying, "Let me, it's my real show." And get the kids to come and stand there and go, imagine if I had a show there. And they were only little back then. And they were like, yeah. So it became a weird thing. I'll just walk past, look up at the thing and just, listen, I could even, if when I was at home, if I drew my name on the door, I was holding a beating. Sometimes these kids, the cute things that people do for their kids, like writing their name on the door, and it just gives that kid a sense of ownership of their room, ownership of self. These things are important. We in my culture, we actually find white people so endearing and cute, especially when it comes to how the Karens and the Sarahs and the Susies, and even the Daves, how they look after their kids. It's so endearing and cute. And I'm not generalizing. I know that we all have people who are like this and like that. I get it. But I'm just saying that half of the reason that some of the people that I know are actually getting into relationships like this is because they like how cute you guys can be around your kids. We've seen some person build a whole kitchen, and in the garden, there's another room on the tree for their kids. Because maximum enjoyment, maximum fun. Yeah, that kid needs to understand what love is from home. So when they get outside, they could tell the difference, and so they can navigate through life. If all you understood from home was, I don't even know if my parents like me, that's right. I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to do anything. I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything. I don't know if they even like me. I don't even know how I got here. They don't even hug each other. How did we all get here? It's unsurety. You're always tiptoeing around. eggshells, trying to maneuver, trying to make people laugh so they don't beat you up. That was my main thing. I'll make you laugh so you don't beat me up, innit? Because you're too busy laughing. So how can you be angry? I'm trying to make you happy before you get angry. All that, for me, I filtered it all into my comedy. All of it. Yeah. That's why I said the trauma does help.
Yeah. So, but with the actual show and making maths work, did you just like approach the venue and just say, I'd like to put a show on? How do we go about this? Or is it, because this is like from somebody that's never put on an event like that. I have no idea what you would actually do. Like even from an admin point of view, just going, what do I do?
Yeah, is this all because of the sales background that I have, where I do field sales and presentations and stuff like that? It's good to be able to approach people and network. So I had already, like I told you, I'd already been doing Bar 48. So then the owner of Bar 48, and like everybody people know each other. All these people in Brixton with their buildings and stuff, they all know each other. It's a community over there. So I approached Ritzy via email. Sometimes you can approach clubs in person. One of the ways that if it depends on what you're trying to do. For my one woman show, I approached the building that in my heart this is where I want to be, right? Yeah. For my first, I'm being humble. Yeah, I'm not at the Apollo. Not everybody knows that. I'm just humbly creeping. This in my area. Let me get my area. Let me get Brixton. Like I feel like once I get Brixton, that's me. I chose it on that perspective, but. You can email, you can approach them directly. They're really friendly and they're very, very, very helpful. You wouldn't imagine the levels of help that these people are willing to give. And they made it as easy as possible for me to do what I did. And a lot of people bought tickets. Not as many people who bought the tickets all showed up, which I found interesting. And I double checked with people and everybody had their story. It doesn't matter because you already paid your ticket. So it doesn't really... Then the bit that actually I found the most fun was not just all the audience that turned up. When your family are in the audience, it does make it a bit trickier for you to do some of your jokes when a bunch of your jokes is about your kids, right? Yeah. It makes it a bit, and also if you're a naughty girl and a lot of your jokes is sexual innuendos and stuff, it just makes it a bit, I can feel my daughter, what's the word? Grinch?
Yep.
Yeah. I can feel her doing, oh God, Mum, why are you like this? Oh God. Yeah. If you want to start a comedy club, it's different to putting on a show. If you could approach your favorite restaurant or space, somewhere that has space, performance space. And sometimes it's a restaurant or a bar, or I would approach them proposition them for their day that is the quietest so that you can help them. Yes. So it can be a win-win rather than a one-sided. I don't like one-sided. I don't even like one-sided friendships. And I like none of that one-sided stuff. I like both sides. Yeah. Everybody should win in a business setting, that is.
Yeah. So if we kind of move on to like the actual open mic circuit itself, because if you've been in this game now for a number of years, have you seen the open mic circuit change a lot over time, or has it not changed that much? Because the way I've seen things happen is so much is that it's a lot busier than it once was. There's a lot more. I can imagine there's a lot more comedy now, or comedy nights being put on by people.
Yeah, there is a lot more. It's become saturated. That's true. And when I started, it didn't feel as saturated at all. So those who ran their nights, I guess, wasn't really having to overtly compete with others. People weren't stealing each other's ideas and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, because there's so much more, even more comedians, every time you turn around, there's like an influx of even more people who think they're funny. It means that there's space for these open mics because there's even more people. So I think it kind of evens itself out a little bit. It just makes it less special. Well, for me, it doesn't make the open mics less special. For me, those bigger nights that you are doing your open mics to get to will always be the little chupacabras of why you're going to all these spaces. Yeah.
There's very much a practice and a proving ground for yourself.
If there's loads of open mics nights, then if you're a new comedian now, you could book yourself into free a week. You could be sharp by the end of 6 months or whatever. Yeah. And then, so it's there. You can see the benefits. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If you got a friend that came up to you and said, I want to do I'm thinking about doing what you do, what one piece of advice would you give them? Just one single piece.
Make sure you're enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it, then don't force yourself to do it. I guess know why you're doing it at the same time. You know?
There's no point in doing something if you're not going to have fun with it at all.
Yeah.
If you're on stage and you don't look like you're having fun.
I told them, be funny. Yeah.
There is that one, simple one, be funny. But then how do you know you're funny until that moment you get on stage?
Well, I think that's why the schools are, because I've seen people are taking different routes to do comedy. And for some people from school, they'd decided that they're funny and then they're on this path of, I'm going to do comedy.
Yeah.
And then for other people, they go through life, they have experiences, and then they're willing to pay to be certified, to understand. Because when you do, I feel like I'm plugging the comedy school, but when you do it, you've got to do a performance at the end to your own family and other people. When I did my performance, I'm so skinny, my heart was visibly beating out of my chest like this, and I could see it. I could see it. I was like, oh my God. I was like, look, I was running around asking people to look at my heart that was beating visibly out of my chest. Yeah. I remember asking I was like, hey, feel it. And I look like I'm going around getting people to feel my boobs. But that's not what it looked like that for sure, though. But I was like, look at my heart. And then because I was so nervous, I then started checking if are you all right? I was like, are you okay? You need to breathe. I'm telling them they need to breathe. It's me, you know. Yeah. I'm like, let's breathe. And they're like, yeah, I'm okay now. I'm like, are you sure? Cool. But then as I was doing that with everybody, I started to feel like I'm back to being a little helper outer. So by the time I go on stage, I'm all right because I've been going around breathing with everybody and getting everybody to touch my titties. My chest. So, but the more you do the comedy, the more you'll figure out whether it's really for you, because after a few years, you might wonder if there's other spaces or other things you could venture into. My gift, obviously, is that I can talk a lot. Mm-hmm. A lot. So I thought perhaps I should do radio. And when I was younger, I was told, they're like, you could talk a lot, but you're really entertaining. Some people just like the sound of my voice. Cool. Yeah. So I thought I'll do radio because from what I see, they don't even get dressed. They just turn up in their pajamas on the radio, go home. No one knows what they look like, what they've been doing. So in my heart, I thought I'll do radio as well. And I got to do radio whilst doing comedy. It wasn't the way, it's all visual now. So you got to turn up and you got to look the part. When I was coming up, comedy, even music, I've seen lots of unconventionally attractive people do music and still making money. Now you've got to be a section of a look that you've got to fit into. Even comedy, I grew up on this Whoopi Goldberg. I grew up on Angie Lamar, Gina Yashere, all these people that were coming through, Tommy Cooper. Yeah. Because it's the way you tell them, right? Yeah. So back then you saw that they had very quirky looks about them because they were allowed to be organically themselves. Yeah. Now it's almost like they're outsourcing a type of look because to push an insecurity in almost everybody, so people start buying stuff. I don't know where it is. It feels like the goalpost has moved slightly. And so even as an adult, the stuff that your parents wanted for you, when you became an adult, those things may not have been, they're not there again. The stuff I want for my kids, when they become an adult, those things are not there like that again. And things keep moving and changing.
What's your ambitions you've got for the future then? What do you want to do next? Is it more solo shows or?
I feel like that definitely, because people are like, your last laugh, that's what they're saying, and they carry on doing the comedy. Hey, I know what you're doing. I'm like, no, I feel like I really looked at what I was doing. I said, Muriel, so you kind of wanted to be in Scotland right now, and you would still be walking around giving out your flyers to strangers. It's a graft. It's not you just dress up and everybody just turn up. It's a graft if you're not with an agency. Mm-hmm. And then I remember after the coronavirus I got with the agency, they called me and I was always told they will call you if you've got that thing. And I was like, really? You mean I can't be proactive and call them and say, yo, what are you saying? They're like, no, you must never call them. They will call you. It's called getting the call. So when they called me, I was like, oh my God, oh yeah, I got the call. Only to find out that and I feel like this is what if you're doing comedy to become famous, when you get to where you're going, you're going to get them go, is that it? Oh, And then you have to take some drugs to make up for that. Let's just sniff all the snow off the top of this mountain to make yourself feel better, you know? I'm seeing, even with everything that's unfolding right now, it makes you feel like, I've never even been really, I'm very critical of celebrities. So it's weird that I'm doing comedy because people keep saying, where are you going? What do you want to be? Don't you want to be, everybody asks me, don't you want to be like Judy? And I love Judy. I love Judy Love. I honestly do. I love all of them. But it's okay to be yourself. You don't have to always model yourself on somebody else. In comedy, it's your uniqueness that will make you stand out. It's your awareness of your uniqueness that makes you stand out.
Yeah, because, I mean, for me, like, to flip it back, is that the where I want to be isn't television, isn't to be playing, you know, 1,000-seater venues. That's not, I don't see that ever happening. It's to be there in a room, maybe get to somewhere like, I don't know, perform in front of 200, 300, 400 people, not necessarily even as a solo show, but to get that same buzz that you get when it goes really well, and you make somebody else's night better. Somebody else has come to comedy. You don't know why the audience have turned up. They may have had this in the calendar for ages. They've turned up. Things may not have gone right for them in the last week, and it's then up to you, without you even realizing it, to entertain that person and for them to make them forget about what they've gone through leading up to that moment. That's all. That's what when I always ask, like, what's your ambitions for the future? It doesn't have to be television. It doesn't have to be the stage shows. It doesn't have to be that. Because there's so many of us on this circuit at the moment that do it for nothing. You know, there's people that still don't get paid after doing it for a year. Some people will look at it and go, why are you still doing it? But then there's that thing in somebody's head is that, okay, I don't rely on this as a living, so I can do it and enjoy it without that pressure.
Oh, yeah. Anytime that I've worked a job where I've been paid nicely, they're like, what do you do for a hobby? I'm like, I do comedy. And then when I'm not working, I'm like, where's my bookings? I've got to get my comedy life together because this is all I've got. There's releasing yourself from it being all you've got, from it being a chupacabra. How about it being something you just really like doing? Because sometimes when you're a creative, if you're not creating, you're going to get depressed. So what are you going to do? You're going to write a book. You're going to do a podcast. You've got to do something and get it out. Yeah. There's that. And also, like yourself, when I was 18, 19, I was attending the comedy shows that I've performed at. All of the Black urban circuit people, I and my friends were buying rows because after their shows was a rave, a party, a shake your leg until you can't shake no more like situation. We always saw it as, that means you're getting twice the fun for the price of one ticket. Oh, it's a bargain. That's all we cared about was bargains. And so I feel like I've supported the very same circuit that I went to perform in. I came, I wore the t-shirt and everything. And then I changed my wig and everything. I twisted it to the side to make the people laugh. But then after that, what? That's what everybody keeps saying to me. After that, now what? And I have dyslexia. So I can read, but my spelling, I just think I put an E after every spelling will make the word automatically sound right. And I also have problems with letters that I'm not supposed to. They don't make no sounds, but they're just there, like the P in the front of pneumonia and all of that other stuff. So I want to write. I want to write plays. My imagination is so vivid. I want to produce as opposed to being the one at the front. I want to safeguard people as well, because like what we've noticed is there isn't enough training for when people become famous or are on their way to becoming famous for how they present themselves. I would love to be in the department that looks at adverts. They go on so much about, you know, diversity and being self-aware. And then I personally think they do the advert like that on purpose to get the response, because they know a response is, that's what they want. They want a response. But even in films or whatever, that eye that allows you to see whether it is becoming offensive or not, or you have an act, a person that's a star, but they're not aware that they're coming off like this, and it's not a good look. And no one tells them. They allow them to go onto the TV, show themselves to be that way, and come back and sit down, and all their friends go, oh, you're the best. And they allow them to still keep pushing themselves that way. No one wants to hear the truth. That's what I've noticed. People want you to live in their delusion, and I can't do that. And I think that's why I've been struggling a little bit in comedy.
Okay. On a slightly lighter note then, Netflix come knocking and then offer you a nice little special. The producers sit down with you and said, what music would you like to walk onto the stage to? What do you pick?
I'd probably pick Destiny's Child, I'm a Survivor, or something cheesy like that. And it's funny that you say Netflix, because you know when a person's like, oh, I'm done with all this, I'm not doing this anymore. You're like, Netflix, huh?
Yeah.
When I started comedy, I was like, I'm a conscious comedian, I am. Yeah, I'm not mean. I'm like the Lauryn Hill of comedy. I read books and stuff. And they were like, do you want to come and do Wahala, where you stand up and insult your own brothers and sisters? And I'm like, and they're like, we pay you. And I'm like, yes, I would like to do that. And at that roast show, you take your brain to primary school, you find the jokes there and you roast people. And there's just different levels to comedy. You can't but love it.
Yeah. As we're kind of winding down slightly as well, is I like to set all... I'll ask first if you'd like to take part. I like to set comedians a little challenge to tell a joke on stage from this joke book called The Little Book of Shit Jokes by an author called Sid Finch. And the comedians get to pick the joke they tell on stage, but they only get to pick it by page number. So I don't know what you're going to get and you don't know what you're going to get. And the title of the book is very apt. It is what it is. And it's always interesting to see if a comedian can take the joke and then weave it into their set or tell it standalone or have something and then ask them to record it, post it on Instagram, tag us in it, and then we'll share
Funny.
it. So if you want to take up the challenge.
Have you had Tom Ward on your show?
No, not yet.
Oh. I did Comedy Store, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited. This one of my Chupacabra places, and I got to do it. Anyway, Tom Ward was back there. I couldn't breathe. He became the Buddha. He was like, breathe, Muriel, breathe. And I was because I was about to go on stage. But then he knew my brain was scrambled because this is literally just after coronavirus where everybody's a little bit like, did that really happen? So he goes to me, there's a word I want you to say when you're on stage. If you could fit it into your set, that would be, because I don't know what's happening. I don't know what competition they were doing, but it was like, if you could fit it into your set, oh my God. And because my brain was scrambled and I just had to, I was like, in my back of my head, I'm like, I'm not trying to do all that. I'm trying to remember my stuff. And you want me to remember? Thinking to myself, no, Mira, stay focused on yours. And then I went and did my set. And afterwards, I could see the slight disappointment. Like, you didn't say that thing when I asked you to say it. And I'm wondering, I thought maybe then he films it and he sends it to you and you're like, yeah, you're making everybody say the joke on page 15. That would be fun though, if it went that far. But yeah, let's play the game.
So
I'll play it.
If you can give me a number between 5 and 95, and by the way, if you pick a page that's already been picked, we have to go again because, like we say, two comedians can't have the same joke.
I pick number 58.
Okay, we have 2 jokes on this page. Would you like joke 1 or joke 2?
Joke 2.
Joke I'd like you to tell on stage and record it and film it and tag us in it is: what do you call a dinosaur that looks after its teeth? A philosopher. I don't know. You got to say this. A flossy raptor. A flossy raptor.
Not a flossosaurus.
Oh, you could change it to that.
Yeah.
That's probably a better way of saying it.
That's cute. That's like you could say around the kids. How adorable.
Yeah.
I went to a show where my jokes, all of a sudden there was children at the, all of a sudden I was at a comedy show and all of a sudden people was bringing their kids to come and sit down and I was the one coming on and I was like, wow, look all these kids. What happened? Like, I'm thinking to myself, the stuff I say, then I had to try and censor everything that I was saying and find other words around it. Like what wonky donkey, just to, and then you understand what Pixar and all those cartoons, they really do, like, and even Simpsons, what they're doing, because they know that the adults are sitting there too. It makes sense.
Completely.
Yeah.
But so where can people find you then online and stuff like that? And I'll put all the notes in the description.
I am still here. I'm still on Instagram. I don't know if people even care about me on Facebook. Like I say, things is changing around me. People have been telling me to get onto TikTok for the longest time. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you feel because you look like you're from my generation, Mark.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We obviously used to live in real life, and there'll be one application, and you do it one time and go sit down. There was nothing called a cloud. Your stuff still kept going. Yeah, it archived itself, but it just kept going anyway. all of a sudden, our phones, the screen, it never broke. It never broke. We threw it on the floor and stamped on it and pick it up. It still never broke. Now you sneeze on it, the whole thing's broken. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is we're from a whole different era. Why is all of the different applications offering the same thing? They all do. You're repeating. Imagine if you was at work, me and you are at work, and then you got this person doing the same job as that person, they're all getting paid. Everyone will say, one of you lot got to go. There are maybe two of you, but all of you, now I do this thing here, I've got to post it. It's very annoying. I don't have the pay. I'm slowly, as I'm getting more mature, I'm starting to not care as much. I'm starting to see through some of the weirdness as well.
Yeah.
So I need to figure out what I really, really do want to do. And it would be more in production rather than being on the front. On the front, you're critiqued consistently as well. Mm-hmm. You got to be able to take that on and let it run off your back and carry on going. And if you read comments or you go too deep into things people are saying, take anything personally, it could throw you off. You got to be emotionally resilient.
Yeah, I find Instagram is the best for comedy stuff, really, at the moment. Facebook seems to be the place where people get gigs. Instagram is the place where people advertise gigs. And I've been categorically told, Dad, if you set up a TikTok, we're never speaking to you again.
Why? Whoa.
I think the kids see that. I say my kids are adults. They see that as their thing. You know, it's like I didn't have the same taste in music as my mum and dad. So if I ever heard them listening to what I liked, it felt weird.
Like they're intruding on your space, cringing even, and making now you got to stop listening to that. Whatever it was, you lot can have it. Moving on to another app now. We're cool. You know, I get it. My son is on Instagram and TikTok. My kids, and not just my son, my daughter, and the rest of the family, my nephews and nieces. And so I was told, how comes you don't do a little, what do they call it? They've got a name for it that you do online, something. And it's just where you look a bit sexy every now and then, a little bit, you know. And I said, why am I doing all that? And still like, you're going to get more followers. It's about getting likes. Are you not, this is what social media, I'm like, so that my nephews and nieces can all feel cringed out. Like, I'm going to let them know that I'm someone's grandma. So I don't need to necessarily be doing that. I'm the oldest member in my family, almost. Yeah. What does it look like?
No, I know what you're coming from.
Not for everybody, is it?
What is your Instagram handle anyway? And I'll at least put that in the description.
It's Miss Moril, at Miss Moril. And I'm still going to do social commentary. I watched the fight with Tyson now that it's done. How do you feel about it? Did you watch it at all?
I didn't watch it live. I watched it later on. What did I think about it? I thought it was quite sad to see. It felt like a bit of a theatrical thing, but I guess that's what's happened with the whole YouTubers crossing into boxing and all of that. I mean, it got the numbers, it brought the money in. I heard a really good thing on the radio this morning actually about that, is that everyone's talking about that fight, but on the same bill was the two females, Katie Taylor and I can't remember the other girl's name, going at it in a proper title fight, and that gets nothing. You've got that scenario where you've got two females trying to big up female boxing and they're being given the platform, but they're not being spoken about. It's all about 8 2-minute rounds of Mike Tyson, who looked absolutely shattered after 3 of them and just looked like he was like, let's just get through this, get my $20 million and then be off. And you can't blame him for that.
What you said made me realise that we are seeing females now stepping up in different areas and industries and stuff, like in sports and even in comedy and stuff. When I was coming up, like I said, there was a few female comedians.
Yeah.
That woman, Joe Brand, and the other one, Ruby Wax, all of them, they were there. When I came into comedy, I still felt like it was very male orientated. When I vocalised it to the promoters that I was working with, they put on shows that were female orientated shows. So I feel like people are evolving to this space of understanding. But wherever there's a group of people that have power's enjoying for some types of personality. Some people, when they got power, they feel better, right?
Yeah.
No one's going to ever let go of being in that position. It had to be snatched away from them. So no matter how much women or people on the other side of power try, it always feels like we get given a bit of a breadcrumb and we make a big loaf out of it because we have to. And then you won't see nothing for a bit, and you just got to try and hold on to their memories and make it last until another moment of a breadcrumb again. So I don't want people to fool themselves. It's still like everybody, there's always the person in power and the person trying. People get exploited a lot as well in entertainment. I feel like comedy's not well regulated. But when my daughter watched Baby Reindeer, she's like, I don't want you to do comedy now. She's like, no. She's like, it's not what goes on. I'm like, but when you come and watch me, is that what I'm doing? She's like, yeah, but you're not going to show me that though, are you? I will make jokes at the bus stop because I like the sound of people's laughter. I listen to.
Laughter is like the drug, isn't it?
Even babies laughing.
Yeah. I mean, you can't be sad at someone laughing, can you? There must be somebody who's going to say, yeah, if they laugh like this, then that's really annoying.
Oh, well, when my mum laughs, yeah, you got to say to yourself, what happened? Who fell over? Something wicked would have happened. And she's all, someone slipped and dropped. She'll be, she'll laugh. So when she's laughing, you just know something. One time she was laughing so much, she couldn't explain why she was laughing because every time she went to explain, she just was like, then there was just tears. And then she just was like, don't ask me no more. I can't even breathe. She's like, you're trying to kill me. Do you notice when you do a comedy show, when you have that thing where you perform, afterwards you want to do it again. But you swear to yourself, if they let you back on, you're going to be even better. But then you've got to go home, go to sleep, play it in your mind a billion times and wait for your next show. But by then you've reset yourself. It's that trying to carry your last performance, not with you to a point of where you're giving yourself mental health, but just learning from it enough so that your next performance can get better and better.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess when you're, I don't know about yourself, but when I've finished one and I've come back and I'm back home, gone to bed, I'm not sleeping for at least 2 hours. My brain just won't turn off. It keeps playing it over and over and over again. And that's quite a tough thing because your brain then goes, I know, it almost tells you that when you're going to go home, I'm not going to let you sleep.
Yeah, I used to, when I first started comedy, because I don't know what it is, but I used to replay what I did and just, if I've had such an amazing time, I'm replaying the amazing time as well. But as of late, in the past few years, I finish my set and I bounce and I go to where I'm going to. Sometimes I've got 2 sets in one day. I finished that set and I'm like, oh my God, that could have been better if I hadn't rushed over to do this because of the way my brain is being split. But then I get to the other set and then I'm so cut. This is the last set. You're not going to rush nowhere. So now you're really calm. And then, but it's like a precursor to the next show. I don't overthink it anymore, but I did used to. Now I think about it for a bit and then the art of letting go, that's what I called it, because it can be annoying to yourself if you're like, I want to keep thinking about that. Why do I keep thinking about that? It's like something at school. You had a fight or you're arguing with someone. You said some stuff, but you didn't go all the way there. You were holding back. Then you get home and you're like, look at all this stuff I could have said. I could have roasted them. Better write it down, isn't it? Write down the roast you could have had so that roast can be had so that you can. Yeah. It's actually a good time to write if it's annoying you, if those thoughts are so overtly repetitive that it's now 4:00 and you're still going, and then the mic went and the light went off. There was no one there in the audience. Where just write it down and get it out of your system and go to bed. Yeah, it's not going to change nothing.
No, that's the thing, isn't it? Is it you probably recorded it in some way as well, so you can still look at the next day, and if you need to do anything about it, you can do something about it. But at that moment in time, you can't change it. But the brain still goes, you could have done this. You could have said this. That's always the worst one, is when you've done it, you've come off stage, and then you've gone, somebody else has referenced something else that's happened in a previous act or something. You've gone, why didn't I think of that?
I don't have that. I have that person is funny as fuck. Who are they going to follow him? I'm going to follow him. They say funny stuff, and then I want to look at the funny stuff they say. I don't have, they said something funny, I wish I had said that. I have, that. Because once I was in Up the Creek, and there's a comedian who came up with he did it. The very first time I heard someone say he did it, way before this story came out. And he's a big chubby comedian, plays about with words a lot. And when he said it, I thought, what? I started clapping, and the rest of the room started clapping because the way he did that, like it was somebody thinks somebody killed Tupac, or somebody took out the P because P did it. I don't know how he said it, but it banged, and I said that this he looks like someone who just plays darts and goes to the pub and walks his dog and has his girlfriend. I said, so he listens to hip hop, obviously, innit? So I'm starting to think it makes the person look like there's other elements to them that you don't see. I never grudge people for being funnier than me. I just I admire them. There's loads of things that are hilarious.
Yeah, it's always an admiration. It's never a.
It's because I'm the youngest. I wonder if it's because Mark, where you are in your family. If you're having to compete for love in your family, when you come into comedy, you may feel that you're having to compete with everybody for this spotlight, right?
Yeah.
I was the youngest. I didn't compete. Once you're the youngest, your parents looked at you and go, "Oh, we've made the one we really wanted. Oh, that was just practice." Yeah, and you've arrived. You're not a part of. I was too young to ever be a part of any competition that my siblings had. I was always sort of beaten on my own. She'd beat them with stuff. I'd be beaten with her hand. So for everybody, that's preferential treatment right there. They were old enough to go to school. I was always at home. So they're a different generation to me altogether. So doing comedy, I've never felt competitive. I've only ever felt admiration or inspiration even. Like Angela Ma, I've always felt inspired by everything that she's been doing. Even it's not so on camera. The stuff that she just does, even them walks that she does with people and their dog for a little health walk is cute. Once you feel competitive, it means you're not looking at yourself, you're comparing yourself. Now, how are you going to enjoy the comedy journey if you're just comparing? There's always going to be someone bigger, taller, better, You're going to psych your own self out. So to me, you got to be enjoying it. You're on your own path. You're on your own journey. You encounter people. For me, it's the encountering people that will exploit and lie, manipulate. That's been the hardest bit for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you see yourself as on your own individual journey, when you stop, it shouldn't be because you're comparing yourself to anybody. It should be because you've finished, you've had a great time, and you feel that there's other prospects and other things you can do.
I'm going to say we should stop there because I think that last bit was amazing. That's so apt for how people should carry themselves, especially in this industry. And I'll just sign up by saying you can find us on Instagram, Open Mic Comedy Pod. We've got a website, openmiccomedypod.com. And whichever platform you're listening to this on, give it a like, a rating, a 5-star review, whatever, to get us up the ratings a bit higher. So more of these people can be listened to and heard. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Mark, and big up your podcast and all of your listeners. Keep listening and tuning in.
Thank you. And for everybody else, I will speak to you all very, very soon.